Hello, everyone, and welcome to Camping with Lenny. In this episode, is it better to camp with other campers or a quiet, secluded place?
This episode is brought to you by me, Camping with Lenny. Help me create great content by supporting this podcast by buying me a cup of coffee at buymeacoffee.com/campinglenny. Thanks for your support.
Camping with others or a quiet, secluded place has always been a question to ask when you go camping. Close to it. It's one of those questions that when you're going camping with friends or family, you want to know: are you planning to camp close together with other campers, or you want to have a little bit more privacy? There's two extreme thoughts of this. One is you can have a very community feel when you go camping. The other one is you can be secluded, no one's around you, and be part of nature. So in this episode, we're going to go through the pros and cons on both ends, and I'll tell you what I want to do, that I normally try to do as much as possible. It gives you a sense of the direction that you should be going through, or what you should be thinking of when you make this decision. Okay, so let's start with camping with others or camping with other campers around you. The pros are very simple. Typically, if you are with other campers, you will have a sense of community. That means your neighbor's primary goal is to go camping, be one with nature, and roughing it, quote unquote. And at the same time, too, it gives you the opportunity to have a conversation with your neighbors. Like, for example, hey, what kind of tent are you using? Hey, how do you deal with mosquitoes, for example, or what kind of equipment do you use when you cook? You know, it's a nice camaraderie feel to it, especially the sense of community. You feel that everything in the world is correct, nothing's going on. You just feel you have this one thing in common, is camping, right? And you're gonna have that you'll have that sense of community for it, right? The other one as well too for the pros is typically you are going to be a lot closer to a comfort station. That includes bathrooms and washrooms. Being close to those kind of facility will actually make your camping experience so much better, especially if you have kids or you are with people you're with your friends or family that never camped before. Having a facility or comfort station close to you will be a lot easier as well too. All right, so that's one big pro. The third one that I want to consider as a pro is safety with numbers. Here's an example. For example, you are camping and there was an emergency. You don't have to worry about running 10 minutes away to get help. You can just literally go across or just go around the bend, and you'll have your neighbor that can help you. So safety with numbers. Safety in numbers. So it just gives you that secure feeling that if something goes wrong, you'll have someone there to give you a hand. So that's always a good sign. The cons, in my opinion, this is the cons. You are stuck with your neighbors. There's a good chance about 10% chance that your neighbors in your campsite, you just don't like that person. That person rubbed you the wrong way, or they make slight comments, and again, you're going to be stuck with that camping neighbor for about a minimum 1 night, 2 nights, or a maximum of, like, in Ontario you can do 14 days. So you'll be stuck with that neighbor for a while, and there's a good chance you're not going to be seeing eye to eye on it. If they're laughing so hard, you just get really, really annoyed. So those kind of things that you do have to consider, that you might not like your neighbor when you go camping. So that's a very big con in my opinion. Next one is I want to flag is noise. There's a good chance that your neighbors will be playing music, especially if you are in a plug-in site. Some campsite in Ontario, there's a noise restriction. That means there's no music. There's even some sites there's no music allowed, right? And having that option actually makes experience feels a little bit more in in the middle of in the middle of a forest, for example, or in the middle of nowhere. But at the same time, you get that feel of like safety in numbers. But some people, some campsites, some campers will start playing music at 7 o'clock in the morning and will not end until midnight. Right? Some of them are just it's just super annoying. Here's a great example. I went camping just before the pandemic, before the shutdown, and I had a camping neighbor playing music around 10 o'clock in the morning and didn't end until like past midnight. And there's one point that they were singing karaoke. There was karaoke, and I swear there's DJs too. It was just loud. It was a powered site. It was just really, really bad. And I know that some of my other neighbors in the campsite, the camp area, did call the rangers, the park rangers, and they came in and told them to shut it down. I think they came in twice to tell them to shut down, and they were threatened that they'll be kicked out of the park that night. That's how bad it was. It was so bad, and they finally shut it down. Everyone went to bed, and we noticed that I'm not sure if it was their last night or they got kicked out, but they did leave the next day. That's how bad it was. And it was just horrendous. It was just like we couldn't sleep. We were enjoying the campfire, and the only thing we were hearing is bass thumping all night, and that was not fun. It was not a fun experience, unfortunately, and it was just bad, right? The other cons of having a campers around you while camping is traffic. The reason why I'm saying traffic is it becomes a very busy street roadways, because you will have kids walking, and you have kids and family walking down the street to go to, let's say, to the bathroom, for example, or taking a hike or getting into the nearest entrance for the trail, for example. But some people do drive to the beach, drive to the town to grab some supplies, getting more firewoods, and you will see cars nonstop driving back and forth, and some of them are speeding. And some of the cars that comes in, they do have modified exhaust, or they just have a very loud car, or just blasting music. You'll hear all that, and to be honest with you, it's no fun, because you're going camping and your goal was to relax and just to be outdoors, and the only thing you're hearing is cars and trucks with loud exhaust, loud music. It ruins the feel and the atmosphere of camping, and you feel like you never left the city. And unfortunately, that is the biggest con, especially if you're with other campers. Right, that's the thing about camping with neighbors around. There's a good chance that they'll have loud cars, or the traffic is just so high, and you do need to keep an eye on your pets and kids, and some of your campers, just in case something happens. Right, so just that's one of the biggest flaws of camping with campers surrounding you. Right, the other one as well too is privacy. You will not have privacy. Let me put an asterisk in that one though. I've been camping before that there's my neighbors was literally beside me, and I did not hear anything, because it was just they're just isolated within their pocket of their campsite, right? And I barely seen them or barely heard them, right? And I know they're there because I bumped into them several times. And it was fine, right? But I've been to campsite that it's literally, you can see your neighbors. You can literally touch and see them. You can hear every single conversation. there's one that I'm literally just sat there and didn't bother playing music in my headphones or watching movies or whatever, reading. I can literally sit there with my beer in my hand and listen to their conversation, and that was my entertainment. That's how bad it is. So just be aware that your privacy will go down significantly if you do have neighbors in your campsite, especially if the tree line is very, very low and it's just the whole thing separating your campsite and your other campsite is your tent. That is that your privacy is gone. Just be aware that if you are looking for a campsite, look at the terrain, look at the photos, see how, if you can see your neighbors and all that good stuff. If you can see them, move on to the next one, right? Just keep that in mind, that your sense of privacy is gone when you have your neighbors are very close to you, especially camping with others. Okay, so that's camping with others, or camping with other campers beside you. The next one I want to talk to you about is this camping in a secluded place. In my opinion, this is what I'm trying to accomplish every time I go camping. Okay, trying to find a secluded area, but it still gives me a walking distance to the bathrooms, for example. Okay, so let's go for the pros. Privacy. Let's start with privacy. If you are in a secluded area of the park or your camp area, if you get the privacy, you are laughing. This means no one's around you, no one can hear you. You can just relax and not worry about your neighbors. You don't have to worry about other campers or any cars going beside you, or any disturbance. Right, so that's the biggest thing, especially if you're trying to find a secluded place in a campsite, in a camp area. Just be aware that just be aware that it is going to be super private, right? This actually goes into the quiet part, like I mentioned earlier, in the privacy. It's going to be quiet. It's going to be incredibly quiet. That means no one will be around you. That you will not hear anybody, and you can actually be in your thoughts. If you're with friends and family, having that quiet moment, it's nice because you can actually have a proper conversation, like you and I are having, a very intimate conversation. You're not going to have any issue about people overhearing you or making a big yelling match or something like that. So it's nice. It's nice. So it's quiet. The other one as well too is you feel one with nature. Doesn't matter if you're backpacking in the middle of a forest or in a camp area. Having a private or a very secluded place, you will feel that you are one with nature. You feel like that you are the only one in the middle of a park or a forest, and you just feel great because you feel that you are the only one there, right? It's a nice feeling. That's why I love camping in just the beginning of the season. Doesn't matter how cold it is, because you feel by yourself, and it's a nice feeling, right? So being one with nature, that's the benefit of being finding a secluded place. The cons: typically, if you find a secluded place in a secluded site on a parking in a campsite, typically you are going to be very, very far from a comfort station. That means you're not going to have access to the showers, for example, or a proper toilet facility. But the good news is you do have access to the outhouse. So just keep that in mind. But if you do need to have access to the bathrooms or the washrooms, you are going to be sacrificing those facilities, especially if you want to if you're going to be very, very far from if you want to be secluded. I mean, if you want to be secluded, you are going to be sacrificing your access to the comfort station, like the bathrooms and the washrooms. But you do have access to, in some places, an outhouse. Just be aware of that. The next con is you're going to feel isolating. You're going to feel isolated. That means no one's going to be there. If there's an emergency, no one's going to be there for you. So you have to be very self-sufficient. I'm not sure I literally put this in my notes. There's an asterisk that if you like being isolated, this is not a con. This is not a that's a pro, right? But typically, you are going to be isolated. That means you're going to be by yourself with your camping partner, or even by yourself. And if something goes wrong, you are going to be isolated. This means it's going to be harder for you to get an emergency, and you're going to feel isolated. This means no one's going to be around you when you need something, right? And the next one I want to let you guys know is after being isolated, like I did talked about earlier, is emergency. If there's an emergency, it's harder, especially if you, for example, you're just gonna be isolated, and you're gonna be, if there's an emergency, you have to know how to deal with the emergency, especially if you are going to do a backcountry camping and you're by yourself. You are going to be isolated, so you have to know how to deal with an emergency. So that's why it's very, very important that if you are going to find something secluded, especially just in a park area, you just have to figure out how to deal with emergencies just in case, right? The other one I want to let you guys know about the con part is you have to be self-sufficient. Doesn't matter if you're backcountry camping or in a parking area, like a camping area. You have to be somewhat sufficient as possible, because you're not gonna have your neighbors with you if you forgot salt and pepper, for example, or you forgot your your flashlight or your headlamp. You're not gonna have any of those guys to give you a hand, so you are gonna be on your own. So you have to be self-sufficient as much as possible to at least survive one night. So just be aware that you have to be a bit more. You have to be more prepared if you are planning to be more secluded from the other campers. So that is that's one of the biggest things that you have to be aware of as well too. And also, if you are in a secluded spot or site in a camping area, there's a good chance that you will not have power. So if you do rely on plug-in power for your site, you might not have. You're definitely not going to have that. Also, some secluded place you are required to hike into those sites. You can park your car, but you do need to hike in. So again, I always saw about a couple of parks in Ontario that you are required to hike to your site, right? So you have to be very self-sufficient. So be aware of that too, if you're trying to find a secluded place to go camping. So for me, let's talk about what I do when I go look for a campsite. Doesn't matter it does matter if I'm going camping in a provincial park. I do look for the most secluded place I can find that is a minute walk from the bathroom. Right? That's roughly about 100 meters. If I can be about 100 meters away from the bathroom and in the showers, and I can find a secluded place as possible, non-powered, because it's easier to get in a more secluded place if it's a non-powered in Ontario, I'm happy with that. I have no issues with that. I prefer that. Also, I do look at the photos as well too. In Ontario parks, when you try to find a spot, they actually give you photos of the campsite, right? That will determine how much shade you can get, your what kind of privacy that you'll be expecting to see when you get there. I look at it and actually judge. Okay, can I see if the good thing about it is when they take a photo of the site, they actually take a photo straight on. This means you can see, it's a pretty wide angle as well. So this means you can see the trees and the bushes that's surrounding the site. If I can see the other side from that photo, that means the site is open. Anybody can see inside. So I move on to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, until I find the one that I like, and I book it. Right. What I also do as well too, I actually start putting a database together of all the sites I've been to and what I like and don't like from it, and I use that as a starting point for all my camping trips. I am still collecting that. I'm still undecided if I'm gonna post that on my website. The reason why I'm kind of hesitating posting that website is it's my site. That's what I call my sites, and my site is I just want to be greedy. I want that site for myself before I give it to anybody else. So, if there's enough people asking me for that list, I'll consider posting it. But right now, I'm not planning to post it. But you should do the same thing too. If you're planning to go camping and you want to know what is the best sites out there, you definitely should make your own database, and at least you can go back there every year. And guarantee that you will have that site. And there's only a couple of parks that I go to, that I go back to the same spot all the time because it's really nice, right? But typically I'm open to look at other sites that the park offers, because more variety the better, in my opinion. So again, that's me. But yeah, no, the first thing I do is I do check the photo to see how isolated it is, or how much cover the site is, because you never know. You need to have that privacy, so you can relax better and all that stuff. So do your homework and determine what you actually want to get and what you want to sacrifice from, because it's a give and take decision making, especially looking for a site. So thank you again, and I'll see you guys next time here at Camping with Lenny. Thanks for listening. If you like what you're hearing, consider supporting this podcast by buying me a cup of coffee, link in the description. You can also visit campingwithlenny.com. There you can find other episodes and links that can help you on your next camping adventures. Thanks again.